Well, welcome everybody and Happy New Year. We are super excited today to have Sheila with us, who has more than 30 years of experience in the industry as a salon owner, a stylist, an educator, a mentor, a colorist. In 2018, she was elected of Intercoiffure America Canada and has been acknowledged as one of the top 5 female stylists in the country. She's been honored with many, many, many awards, and we are so glad that she is here with us. So welcome, Sheila.
Well, thank you so much. Happy New Year to everybody. And this is going to, like we said earlier, it's going to be an exciting year, I think, for our industry.
Absolutely, absolutely. So take us a little bit through your 30 years journey. I mean, obviously you have a ton of awards and a ton of accolades, and we are, super excited to have you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I've seen a lot of changes in the industry, and I think the one thing that has not changed and never will change will be absolutely the need to have a mentor in your life, and then also have the opportunity to mentor other people as you go, as long as you stay in the industry. So because that's the consistency, and then we have all the other changes. So when I got into the industry, my first husband and I opened, we eventually had 5 salons. And then we had an educational school, advanced school. And then with divorce, it sort of took that all apart. And then I opened Master Design, and then I opened another Master Design. And then I helped create the International Hair Color Exchange. And that opened huge doors for me. I mean, talk about the mentors in the industry that came forth and I was able to work with. I mean, the greatest leaders, and now some of the greatest icons of hair coloring in our industry globally, I had the pleasure of working with. And so the International Hair Color Exchange really catapulted me into more global awareness and probably more industry-wide involvement. Because I learned more and more about the different components, the schools, the students, otherwise, before that, it was just really my own immediate little area in Memphis, Tennessee. And then we traveled and we took classes and all of that. But when you are there meeting all these people around the world, you realize what a vast industry we have and how important our industry is to the world. I mean, and it gives you a lot more confidence. It gives you a lot more pride. It gives you a lot more, how can I say, desire to get more involved because you see the importance in it. So with that said, you then want to be with the best of the best. And that's how I got involved with Intercoiffure. I wanted to join that. And I mean, that was at the top level of the industry. It was the people that were the movers, the shakers, and to be able to be a part of that has been such a rich influence in my life. So that was it in a nutshell. 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes.
How in the world did you get one of the top 5 female stylists in the country? Like, how did that happen?
You know what? That was really sort of a interesting thing. McCall's magazine was writing articles on women who were involved in the industry, and they wanted to do a big piece on hair color. So apparently they reached out to all the hair coloring companies and asked for them to give names of females that were educators in hair color. And it just so happened that I was educator for Redken at that time. And then I had met Bob Oppenheim with Clairol, and he asked me to be a hair color in residence for Clairol, even though I didn't use the Clairol product, but he wanted to get feedback from people who worked for other companies, and just, he was trying to unify hair coloring language. And I was really into that. And that is really what started the Hair Color Exchange. And so with that, we became friends. And then he introduced me to other color company presidents. And when they asked for names, apparently my name came up from 4 manufacturers.
Mm.
So McCall
Wow.
reached out to me and said, interesting. Why did 4 different companies send your name in? I said, well, no, I don't know, except we were just starting this international hair color exchange. And I guess they all just had my name. And, but from that, oh my gosh, it really catapulted not only me as a colorist, but also the hair color exchange and the importance of having generic education, so that people could have the choice to choose the color rather than the color choosing the person, if that makes any sense. I mean, if you're going to be the best in anything, you've got to have generic information, and you have to understand it from a chemistry standpoint, and also be aware of how it affects the fiber that we're working on. So with that, it became more like the scientific approach to hair color, and that's what we started sharing among all the companies. And I think from that article and that award, it really helped me to become a better educator, because I was introduced to so many other people. I mean, one award or one acknowledgement can really change your life.
I love that. So you mentioned that at one point you had 5 salons, and then you opened, when you separated, you opened 2 more. So
now we had to dissolve all of our salons because that was in the divorce. And I was, my advice to anybody is never be 50-50 partner. Always have one percentage more, because we were a C Corp, and the C Corp law is if you're 50-50 and you can't come to some type of resolution of dissolvement, then that corporation you have to hire an attorney for the corporation for the best of the corporation. So as it turned out, we wound up selling or just dissolving or selling all of them. And then I opened one, and then I opened my second one. So, and now I have one. I decided that it was really good for me a few years ago, about 15 years ago, to buy a piece of property and so I dissolved one of the salons and put both of them under one roof. So that's where I am now, and it's great. It's been really a great decision for me.
I love that. So, talk about that journey of opening multiple salons, because, a lot of times that's something that salon owners come to Tina and I is like, hey, like, I'm full, my chairs are full. When do I take that next step? When is it that I'm going to get another building and open that location? Like, what was your thought process? Because you not only did it once, but then you opened a total of 5, and then you started again and you did it again. So what was kind of your thought process or best words of advice?
Well, I don't know if this is true for, first of all, let me just say this, that every location, every city is a little bit different, and your environment and groups of people. So in Memphis, we were after young professional people in our first salon. That's who we were really geared for, and our hours and just the whole feel of that and the culture of that one salon. And then we decided that we really were missing out on a really groovy group, like musicians and things like that. And they lived in a different part of town, and they really didn't travel to the east part of the city. So we opened a location there, same type of culture, but we really had a different feel. So, most salons would put in and have the same look, the same, you walked into one and it looked just like the other one that was across town. We didn't do that. So every one of our salons were a little bit different for that clientele. And we also had people working for us, like some of them wanted to work at night and not in the daytime. Well, in the part of town that the musicians and everything, well, there were activity. They would get their hair cut in the evening. They didn't get up early, so it was great for those team members to be able to work at a later. And then we got a little bit more restrictive, where we wanted to maybe think that we needed to franchise it. That was the next big move, right? And then we became where we thought we would have the same look. And then that's sort of when we got a divorce and we dissolved all that. But that was the reason that we had 5, is because one was a really large salon, one was a small boutique salon, one was open late because there were people that would come late, and then in the parts of the city that people, went home and ate at 6 o'clock and they didn't get out again. Of course, we didn't need to work late. So that was the thought process. After all, hey, we were young. We thought that we could do anything. So whatever came to our mind, we just made it happen. It wasn't quite as much like I think now. How is this going to grow, and a methodology of how I'm going to make it grow? We just did it and made lots of money. And basically we were kids when we started. Could I do it? Can that age group do it now? I'm sure they can, but I don't know if it would be as easy to do it the way we did. But my second one was told differently, totally different, because I was a single person. And I'll tell you a funny story is that, when you have a partner and you have that many salons, you have like an office filled with like a bookkeeper and all that. And then when you get a divorce, and all of a sudden you don't have that, and it's me. So I was talking to my attorney, and he said, Sheila, you play football? You know about football, don't you? And I said, sure. He said, well, you've got to figure out what position you're going to play. He said, because you've always been the wide receiver, and David was the quarterback. He said, so what position are you going to play? Because you now have to fill those positions, and you better think about it, because it's going to be a good relationship. So yeah, that was probably my best piece of advice from my attorney, is just think about football a little bit more. In my opinion.
I love that analogy.
Yeah,
I love that. I know Sean does too. We both love football.
I do too.
So when you think of 2023 and the future of the salon industry, what's the biggest thing that comes up for you, Sheila, that you notice that Sean and I, when he was saying, we coach a lot of salon owners and salon leaders. And so we're always looking for every year, because a different season happens, right? What do we need to fix with our foundation and our business? What do we need to, how can we fix our communication? How can we fix our leadership, our attitude, and how can we fix our hiring practices? Those are the 5 strategies that we look at. They shift and change every year, as you can imagine, because we've got to adapt and be flexible and change with the culture and the environment of what's happening. What do you see the most happening right now, Sheila? And what advice do you give salon owners and leaders right now that they need to shift?
I think that nowadays, I think all of the people going into a salon or have a salon, they need to watch their finances a little bit more than probably they did maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I think we're in a real unique financial situation in our country right now. I think that anybody going into a business, they need to have their team. They need to have a good banker. They have to have a good relationship. They have to understand the banking. They need a good CPA. I don't think those fundamental things ever change. I just don't think a lot of the younger people going into a business are as aware of it as they need to be, because of online. They don't have that one-on-one. But when something happens, you've got to have that person, that mentor in that specific area to go to find out how are you going to get out of it, or how can you become more successful. So I think that I would say that the advice that I have for everybody going into business and even having a salon, just make sure they have actual people rather than trying to find out everything online. I think it works better.
Yeah, get that big team together.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. And the other thing is establish a good sound mentoring system with yourself, with everybody that you have that you work with, all your team members. You just need to make sure that there is a system that you have before you go into business, or if you're new in business, make sure you have an educational system set up so that you can always have the new people coming in and being ready. And then the component I think that we're having to really watch out for now is the flexibility that, hey, 15, 16, 20 years ago, I mean, you had rules, you had all these, you have to have paperwork to take time off, and you opened at 9, you needed to be there at 8:45, and 9 to 5, we had definite hours. And now the flexibility that everybody is asking for, that works with you, is a little adjustment. I mean, I think it's been hard for a lot of well-established, successful salons to make those shifts in the flexibility of hours and just involvement of their team members in a totally different way.
For sure. So you've mentioned the importance of mentorship quite a bit. So what is your mentorship program in your salon like?
Well, when we bring somebody in, we've now changed it over the last 4 years. At one time they had to be in an apprenticeship program for X amount of months, and then they could, maybe if they blew out really well, we could then start them to blow out hair, and then we would progress them up until they would have a chair of their own, but they would actually apprentice all the time. And now the students that come out, I mean, I've got a couple of them now, and I mean, they come out knowing one thing. So I'm going, what is your best thing that you do? Let me look at it. Let me watch you before I hire them. And then as soon as I hire them, they immediately start doing something behind the chair. I don't hold them back anymore, because they really want to get behind that chair and start working. That's why they went to school, and they don't know that they don't know everything. The schools don't really prepare them for immediate success of a 6-figure salary, but they come out thinking that they want that. So you have to have good conversations with them and give them challenges, and then give them a way that they can see where they're going to be increasing their income on a gradual way. I think that helps, rather than like we used to. I mean, I actually tore up all of my manuals and everything, and have redone them. And I just look at it and I'm laughing. I'm going, whoa, maybe I should have done this 20 years ago. But you know what? When you get into that mode of doing business, and you don't need to make a change, you don't really realize that you should make a change. So now I've got a note on my wall that says, every day, make sure you notice if there's a change that needs to be made, because that's how fast it's evolving.
I love that you're going here on this. Actually, Sheila, this is huge, because this has been something that's been heavy on my heart. Sean and I are school owners as well as salon owners, so we see both sides,
Right.
Of the coin, so to speak. And this is exactly what we're coming up against as well too. When they immediately graduate from school, don't hold them back. Let them fly. And I love your advice of, what's that one thing that you're really great at? Let's make sure you're seeing clients for that one thing, right? And because
Right.
one of the things that I notice, Sheila, and I would love for you to comment on this, is the fact that if you do hold them back and they're assisting, and then they kind of lose the ability, so to speak, of doing consultations that they were doing in school, they lose the ability, that it like goes out the window. They forget how to do all of things, because when you don't do it, you lose it, right?
You're right.
And so they lose their self-esteem and their confidence, and then all of a sudden now they're quitting the industry, because they're, we've watched this with our own graduates. And so we want to make sure they're in really well-established salons like yours that has great education programs this way. Like, hey, stop holding them back, you guys. Let's get them on the floor right away, because that's really what they want. Now, you will have that one occasion graduate that's going to be like, please don't put me on the floor, I'm too scared, And so can you talk about that? How do you how have you shifted your mindset when it goes when it goes to that?
Oh, I think the whole thing is communication, and also looking at, and really and truly, if you want to look at the way salons should work, it should be like a family. And if you have
Yeah.
3 children, you're going to raise them with the same type of culture and value, but you're going to deal with them totally different.
Mhm.
And so you have to look at all the people. They're not robots. They're not, and they're all different. And they have all this background that you don't know until you get to know them. And then you understand why they understand what you're saying in a different way. So does that make sense?
It's
So
huge, huge.
it's not, I want them to be successful. The other thing too is that I think most salon owners need to understand now is that most of them are going to be with you for life. I mean, I've got some people who've been with me 20, 25 years, but as a rule, I don't. I mean, my majority of my people are not with me for that long, maybe 8, 10, because they want to open their own salon. They want to move, or all of a sudden their lifestyle changes.
Mhm.
And I didn't adapt for that. Like, oh no, you can't be off on Saturday because you're busy. That was my fault,
Mhm.
So I look back at what maybe I did incorrectly or unawareingly, that I didn't know that they would leave the industry. And what brilliant people we've lost in the industry, that because we didn't adapt as a business. And I don't want that to happen now, because some of these young kids coming out, their passion is so contagious. They just don't have the skills yet so it's my responsibility, even if they're only going to be with me for 3 months, is to give them a little bit extra push in their skill sets to so they don't lose their passion. And then maybe they'll stay in more than 3 years, because maybe y'all can tell me this, but all of my records and all my research that I've done in the last 2 years with schools and everything, is that after 3 to 4 years, we lose almost 60% of the students who graduated, either because they were disenchanted, they couldn't find the right place, they maybe decided it was the wrong thing. I don't know, but that's a huge loss. And so, yeah, I sort of, after I saw those figures during the pandemic, I sort of steered Intercoiffure to become a little bit more as a partner to the school associations, so that we could start marketing Intercoiffure as a starting place for a career, a successful career. Because, and I think most of our members, I know most of our members in the conversations we've had, we've all said, hey, let's just keep them for 3 years. Let's keep them for 3 years. If they stay more, that's great. But let's do whatever we can, that at the end of 3 years, that's an easy goal,
Mhm.
that they're going to be making a lot of money, to where if they don't want to do haircuts, then fine, don't do a haircut, just do a hair color. Let's work it to where they stay in the industry, because maybe they don't want to be a generalist, or then we've got people who want to be a generalist and they like to learn, and they're going to stay in, because oh my God, you could be in 100 years and never learn everything, right? So yeah, I just think the whole mindset of the relationship between schools, salon owners, and students have got to change, or have changed, and they need to change even more.
Mhm.
I love that. So besides you've had to figure out how to adapt, what are some other would you say, as a salon owner, changes that you've had to make over the past few years?
Well, are we talking about pre-COVID or since COVID? Uh, since COVID, man, we don't have enough time to talk about some of those things that we've done. But I will tell you that prior to COVID, we really, we didn't have more apprentices. We had sometimes more apprentices than we did stylists, and I'm not doing that anymore, because that's a real hardship, because not
Mhm.
every stylist really wants to mentor somebody. It's like an educator, and y'all have got schools, so you sort of know this. You can teach something, but are you really an educator? There's a difference for me. Even when you go watch somebody, you can watch them and they're great, but they can't explain what they're doing. But if you understand what they're doing, you can learn, but they just don't know how to explain it very well. So there's different levels in education. There's different levels in stylist, and my stylists now want to be stylists. So now, and they don't want to be educators, or they'd be on platforms. So I started changing that a while back. And I think that I will probably even change it more. We're all equal. There is no level of person that works in our salon now. They come in and they feel like they're part of it, rather than they're like a level below and they have to work harder. So I've eliminated all of that. And then the other thing that has been really eye-opening for me, and I really am working more personally as well as through Intercoiffure, that we connect with the teachers in the schools. Like, we're trying to connect with the schools that we know, and part of Intercoiffure that we want to elevate those teachers and make let them have time to where they could come into one of our events and sit there and watch salon owners and talk to them. Because how can the teachers prepare those students if they really don't understand the issues of owning a salon? Just as a point of maybe uniting the components within our industry. So I think that that's sort of like we're going to be offering scholarships to to teachers to come into our events. And we want to know how they think and some of the problems, so that we can help the schools and also mend the bridges between the salons, the schools, and the education system.
Outstanding, Sheila. This is music to my ears, and I'm so excited to help get involved with that as well too. I think this is huge. And, as we start to wind down, unfortunately, I wish we could have you all day for sure. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, because you kind of alluded to this earlier, it's our responsibility as a leader. And I think sometimes leaders, they get so involved with taking care of all their tasks in their business that they forget about that I have a responsibility to my team. This is why I'm a leader. This is why I'm an entrepreneur. And it's something I have to constantly, go back with my leaders and all of my companies and say, hey, you have a sacred responsibility here to help people live their best life. You have this honor. I have this honor to be able to help people live their best life. And so talk to that leader right now, because I know, Sheila, you're so good at this and it's come second nature to you, but I'm sure there was a time for you that you were like, okay, am I going to be a task manager or am I going to be a people elevator? So can you talk about that? Like, talk to the leaders and especially the salon owners right now, how they need to fix their leadership, so to speak.
Well, personally, I can only speak to what I believe. And I think that, first of all, you have to really get to know each person as an individual, and they're part of the team, but the team, you have to know that person individually and maybe adapt. So if you have a rule in your salon, everybody has to have rules, but maybe something has happened in one team member's life that is going to have a problem, then do you let them go? How do you adapt that? That's been, for me, I think that's the most important, is to know the people and learn to adapt with them as they adapt to you, because it is a relationship. And the responsibility of helping somebody make a living is huge nowadays. It's huge. And the responsibility, I love this industry. It's provided me with a really great living, as well as so many of my friends and so many of the members of Intercoiffure and people that I know. And the responsibility for us to carry on the torch of people wanting to be in this business and be the influencers in their community, I think is huge. And I think everybody who is a salon owner or decides to be a salon owner, they have to also understand how can they be that influencer. I'm not just the boss. I want everybody's life to be better. And so what can I do and how can I change to make it a better environment? Not only for the people who work, but for the people who come in to be serviced. So it's an important role in our world to be in the beauty business. I mean, you just think about almost every human is touched by a hairdresser. That's huge, and we're on the good end. So I know every human is being touched by a doctor. That's necessarily not good, so we're on the positive side. And I think that the responsibility of anybody assuming leadership role in any capacity of our industry is huge. And I do think it's a little bit sacred in a way. You have to be aware of what you're doing and how you touch people and how you influence them. So for my message to salon owners and leaders is, stay connected to the schools, stay connected to the students who are the future of our industry. Make sure that we adapt as the leaders to the needs of the people coming into the industry as well, and elevate everybody at the same time.
Awesome. Well, how do people find you, Sheila?
Oh, let's see. It can be Sheila at intercoiffure.com, or it can be, you're going to love this. My personal one is shecolor at AOL.com. There was a group of us at one time when we started the hair color exchange, and we always put our first name and color so that we were sort of unique. And you know what? None of us have really changed that. We still stay in touch with each other, but that's my personal one. And I love it. It's like, I feel like I color the world. So, our industry makes everything better, right?
Agreed.
Amazing.
Thank you, Sheila, so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Take care. We'll be in touch.
Okay. Bye-bye.